So with that, everybody, we will be moving on to the next panel discussion. This time round, the topic is, what does payments interoperability really means? Messaging, data, and process. Your moderator for this session is Jo Yo, Head of Payments Development and Data Connectivity Office, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and the speakers for this session, they include Reuben Lai, Senior Managing Director, Grab Financial Group; Susan Hwee, Managing Director, Head Group Technology and Operations, UOB; Jeremy Tan, Chief Executive Officer, Liquid Group, Co-founder, XNAP Network. Let's welcome all of them.
Hi everyone, this is the Infrastructure Summit at the Singapore FinTech Festival. Thanks so much for tuning in. Our session today is on interoperable payments, and this is a topic that our panel here is very excited to talk about. Just last week, MES and the industry reached a significant milestone in Singapore's e-payments journey as we cut over to a live environment in the Direct Fast project. Come February 2021, for the first time in Singapore, users will be able to, in real time, transfer money between bank accounts and e-wallets, as well as among e-wallets. And I'm delighted to have with me today three representatives from the Direct Fast working group who have worked with us tirelessly over the past 2 years to make this happen. We have Jeremy Tan, CEO Liquid Group. We have Reuben Lai, Senior MD Grab Financial Group. And then we have Susan Hwee, Group Head, Tech and Operations, UOB. So what we have here is a good mix of our financial services sector. We have the incumbent bank, we have the super app, and soon to be digibank, and we have a really established fintech firm. And guys, you know, this year our lives have changed dramatically because of the pandemic, including the way we shop, transact, and pay. So how has this impacted the user experience for payments for both consumers and merchants? Because you serve both sides of the house, consumers and payments. Maybe we get some quick words from Reuben.
Sure, happy to chime in. So it's been a very interesting year for us. We've seen massive growth in financial services. First, on the merchant side, all of a sudden, at the start of the year, we saw a huge influx of merchants wanting to get online ASAP. And for them, it was really about survival. And we literally 2x our number of merchants that came onto our platform. On the consumer side, we've also observed a massive change of behavior where consumers have asked and requested for us to accept and our networks to accept cashless payments. We literally saw a 4x increase in first-time cashless transaction users in the first half of this year. So overall, you know, it's been a massive transformation for us as we saw an acceleration of digital finance across Southeast Asia. And every country, we observed that same pattern, a huge increase, a huge desire to do cashless transactions. We also saw a change of behavior on the financial services side for insurance as an example. For insurance, it took us more than a year to reach about 10 million total policies sold. But it took us a couple of months for that to increase to 30 million. And it just speaks volume about the interest in digital financial services, the interest in wanting to get covered, even for something like insurance, where traditionally it's more of a product that is sold instead of bought. But during COVID, we saw the reverse happening, where people were trying to get their hands on all these products to protect themselves. So overall, it's been a fantastic year for us on the digital financial side.
And Susan, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, similar to Reuben, in the Grab side, what we've seen is a shift from traditional payment instruments into online, right? So, like you said, we're a universal bank, so we have corporates trying to figure out how to make sure they get their transaction signatures online and all that, because we're all working from home. We see transactions going through. But what we saw, while on an overall, the online transactions went up, there are certain sectors obviously impacted by COVID, like the travel sector. In our credit card, you can see it drop. But what is made up of right now is our F&B transactions are up, right? Groceries are up. And because I sit also on NET's board, you can also see in the beginning, at the peak of the lockdown, obviously transaction volumes are down because your entertainment, the real consumerism is sort of tempered down, but the essential services continue, and we see the shift. We see higher volumes on fast payments, definitely on our online channels. And what is really interesting for UOB is we actually during the pandemic launched a digital bank in Indonesia, right at the height of it, when we're still shut down and all that. And the response that we had was really, really extraordinary. And it shows that people are ready, for mobility. And also traditional businesses like Reuben has said, and a lot more merchants says, how can you help us? Be it QR code or be it, NET's point of sale, credit card acceptance, and so on. So it has been a good year, despite the unfortunate impact to some of our businesses, which will take time to recover. But I think it sort of encourage everyone, I think, as a catalyst to go on to the digital journey.
Yeah, riding on this year's climate to make the most of what has happened and improve lives for everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah. And Jeremy?
Similar for us. I think, we covered the whole element, right? So domestically, during the circuit breaker, I think, the economy was shut. So obviously, everybody is impacted. But when it started opening, that remarkable shift to digitalization, digital payments, it's there. I mean, we can sense it anecdotally and sometimes in statistics. You can see how things have moved. So one of those, anecdotal examples that we have is that one of the hardest group to move were people that were a little bit older, and then they were very good at cash, coins. But now, because COVID, I mean, and from a medical perspective, it made a lot of sense in their self-interest to use digital payments. So that's something that we've seen. Numbers are going up. But we are predominantly a cross-border firm. So obviously from a cross-border perspective, with the shutdown of tourism, that is, as Susan has mentioned, that was dramatic. But domestically, I think the numbers have came back up, and looking very positive in what 2021 will be, because I think now that we all know that digitalization it's here, they've all tried it, and the next year is going to be a very, very interesting year as well.
I want to add to that. I think what we've seen is also how sticky the behavior has been. So, at the start of the year, it's very hard to predict what would persist and what would not. But what we've seen is the new users that came onto our platform, the cohort retention rates are way higher than the other cohorts before. And so these users, when they came online to do, in our case, food delivery during the pandemic, they were still using the cashless transactions as lockdowns were lifted to do it at P2M, offline merchants as well. So it's very heartening to see that general change of behavior consistently across Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and I like how your homepage says, despite these uncertain times, we are here to serve you. That's very heartwarming and very encouraging. From the UOB perspective, what's your response to that in terms of serving also the man on the street?
Okay, so during the peak of the circuit breaker, when the majority of us has to work from home, we kept our branches open, but we have to operate obviously team A, team B, the social distancing, and we have generations of customers, right?
Yes.
We have the older generation who is less digitally savvy or afraid, generations like us who traverse, and of course you have the mobile first or mobile only generation that's coming up. So we have to serve this whole ambit, and also during that period we had some of the COVID measures, where there are, I think, segments of the society who prefers to have their checks and cash. I mean, there's still a portion. We've kept all those services open. But what I think it has created for everyone, including, I think, employees, our own staff within UOB, I think everybody, is the confidence that you can actually operate remotely and still work as a team, right? And to do command control over, physical assets and premises and relationships where trust matters, sometimes still the human touch matters to some, versus, getting some of the operations overseas and all that, right? So it was a very good learning. And for us, I think because we have a standardized platform globally, and during the height of the crisis, London, New York, Los Angeles, Vancouver went into a shutdown and they operate from home, but they were small branches for us, small offices, and don't have the scale to create the Group A, Group B. And we moved that operations into Singapore just virtually overnight, right? So it gives everybody confidence what is possible with technology.
Indeed, indeed. And with that, I thought we'd come to payments interoperability, which is also the heart of today's session. And we're all here because you're valued members of the Direct Fast Working Group. And tell us why you have come on board. I mean, I kind of know why, but the audience, maybe share with the audience, what does payments interoperability mean to you and your business? Maybe Jeremy.
Well, there are a lot of reasons, but if you right from a birth basis itself, it's a cost of top-ups. We were an e-money company, and anybody who's operated e-money would know that the bane of all digital wallets is your cost of top-ups. You can use cash, you can set up a retail network to do it, or you can use cards. Either way, you're not going to break even. You're going to gross loss because your cost of funds will be less than payments. So we're not going to go down that path. So joining PayNow is a very, very big milestone for us. So that was the key driver. But now that we're actually in the community, there's liquidity in terms of from wallets to bank accounts. And we do realize that customers do appreciate that. So, when you want a customer to put money in your wallet, they want to ask, can I take it out easily? Now, within PayNow, you can. So, I mean, we killed two birds with one stone in that sense. So there were a lot of benefits to be in it. We encourage fintechs to actually explore this option. But we're very, 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 very excited in terms of where we can go with this next year. Yeah.
Reuben?
Yeah, I want to echo Jeremy's views as well. For us, we see the ecosystem growing by embedding services into everyday life. Secondarily, making it really easy to top up, to transact through micropayments, so everything needs to be small instead of the big chunky payments in the past. And then the third, just transparency. With fast and our entry into it, and I always joke that it's never fast enough. We wish we could join a lot earlier, because we've been waiting for it with huge anticipation, to be honest. And it not only allows our users to do cash out, it also allows them to transfer money to between wallets. Nobody wants to be stuck on a single island. We're used to being interconnected in this new world, hyper-connected even. And this really allows that to happen. And then the third one is merchant acquisition. Yeah. That is extremely costly for fintech players, and it's tedious as well. What we want to do is to be able to quickly transform the landscape to enable our customers to be able to transact in more places as soon as possible. Merchant acquisition itself is not where innovation happens. It's the layer of services that we add on top of it. And that's what we want to focus our attention, our resources on. And so FAST really opens up a whole world of possibilities as the government takes care of that base infrastructure so that we can just ride on it and build new services to serve our customers and to serve our merchants better.
And Reuben, I want to come back to you later on how getting the DigiBank license has changed that for you. But before that, let's go to Susan on this.
I had the privilege of sitting on the original FAST steering committee of setting that payment rail of account to account, right? So that money can move safely, but instantly almost, and yet making sure the money is safe and remain within the system. I mean, that trust is very important, right?
Yes.
Then with that being stabilized, security, everything else ironed out, and that's when, with a bit of nudge from the MAS, and then we have our other brothers, who or cousins who comes in and to really use the facility. But underneath it is still essentially a banking payment rail, and that's very important differentiation, right? But I do agree with Jeremy and Reuben is that that little bit of the last bit of friction, right? Of either top up and for the bank cash.
Yes.
And what Reuben has said, micropayments.
Yeah.
Cash is really expensive. And so for us, having that interoperability for better customer experience and everything else, be it whether they were fintech or previously just within banks, is an important element if we want to become a digital economy.
Indeed, indeed. So, coming back to you, Reuben, I'm going to ask you the question that actually I will ask on behalf of the audience, since there's no Q&A today. So, how has your getting the digibank license changed this plan for you? Any changes to your plans?
First of all, we're very thankful to the MAS, of course, for giving us this opportunity to reimagine banking on behalf of our customers. And for us, the thesis into entering into the digibank space has always been about how can we serve our customers better, and particularly for us is using financial services to empower our micro merchants, to empower those that were previously underserved. It has not changed our outlook or thesis, but what it has allowed us to do is just expand that suite of services to serve our customers across the entire life cycle. We look forward to that opportunity to do that. I did want to also add that so we've always looked at ourselves as a partnerships-driven company. If you look at our history, we've always used partnerships and grow the ecosystem together. Same thing for fintech. So Susan and the UOB group are amazing partners for us, and we look forward to continuing this partnership together with them, even as we enter into the digibank space.
Yeah.
And the way that we can do that is because we're just very focused on the unmet needs and the areas where with the use of technology, with the use of plugging into both the Singtel as well as the Grab ecosystem, we can hopefully serve our customers better through maybe better scoring or better understanding of what their needs are, and then we'll develop products alongside our partners and to offer it to our customers.
So Jeremy, I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
so how will Direct Fast change the way that you serve your customers? What sort of product offerings can we look forward to, or what sort of plans do you have post Direct Fast working group, which was, I hear Reuben now saying, not direct enough and not fast enough, but we are here, we are already here. So what are your plans?
Well, it is fast enough. I think we're very realistic in terms of how fast we've gotten there. So obviously when we first started the journey, the few of us wanted it, months down the road. Then we realized the enormity of the infrastructure and what we all needed to do. So, like I said, credit to MAS for shepherding us across. We got there. So our entry in Direct Fast is actually a little bit nuanced. So we are actually a cross-border firm, right? So essentially, we believe in cross-border payments. So there's even this G20 initiative that's driven by CPMI under FSAB for cross-border payments. So we believe in that, and being a participant on FAST allows us to be first in Singapore's ecosystem. So we are able to then now receive money real time. But that's just one building block. So, I mean, this is the 2021 will be the year of cross-border payments. There's a lot of emphasis on it. There's still a lot of friction. I think domestically, we have FAST, but there is no cross-border payment platform. I mean, there's still, in terms of cost, in terms of availability, in terms of transparency of the fees, in terms of speed, those are issues that will be addressed by multiple nations. And for us, we operate in multiple countries as well. So being in Singapore's platform, it gives us the building block to participate in those ecosystems. And hopefully, before soon, or very near in the near future, we would have literally real-time, fast cross-border payments. So this is one step in a very, very long journey, and we are very, very happy to have taken it. Yes.
So Susan, your views on this cross-border payments, how does this change things for you?
Within UOB, if you take a look at our footprint, we are really strong in Southeast Asia, right? We have subsidiaries in almost all of ASEAN.
Yes.
And they are domestic franchises. So payments for us is equally important. And we do hear and agree with Jeremy, there are opportunities. But the payment space in this part of the world is so dynamic right now. Yeah? We have traditional payment rails, we have real time, every country is doing something about it. Everybody is embracing fintech and how we can partner to make our lives better. And also have influence from China. The QR codes as an example, and how they reach out to a part of population in there and then grew to what it is today. So I think there will be a lot of exciting times, and the payment rails has really several layers, right? For those who are, many of us who works in this space. One is obviously to the consumer, what it means. there are risks, right? Surety of money. Then, of course, there's money laundering rules that we all have to comply as responsible corporate citizens. And how can we make it a lot more vibrant to facilitate the flow of funds and trade within Southeast Asia and Asia? I think that will be a very interesting times, but also very dynamic right now.
Indeed. And Reuben, I know you have a response to that. Let us have your response to that in terms of what you see for cross-border payments, your reach into this region, and your plans for that.
Well, actually, cross-border payments is an area that we intentionally deprioritize on our side. We're very focused on serving the domestic economy. So for us, right now, our mission has always been to enable millions of micro merchants to thrive and to be able to build their businesses on our platform. We want to level the playing field for them and give them the tools, particularly in this rebuild phase, for them to thrive and to rebuild their lives and their businesses. And for us, in terms of cross-border, we look forward to partnerships. To our buddies over here at Liquid Pay, we would look to partner on UOB as well for different layers of the transaction flow. And I think this is where, as an ecosystem, we don't try to do everything, but we divide and conquer and to lift up the entire economy for Southeast Asia.
And speaking of partnerships, I want to talk about bank wallet competition. Because Jack Welch said that companies either buy out or bury the competition. And not to put undue pressure on Susan, but you represent the incumbent bank here.
Yes.
So just wonder your thoughts on how does UOB intend to stay mighty, in the light of this disruptive forces by the likes of Reuben and Jeremy here?
I think the word is co-opetition, right? We collaborate, but we also compete. As long as the rules are clean, right, and a level playing field for which MAS has to play a part to ensure the safety of the system and so on. So I think competition is not new. So we want to congratulate the incumbents that has been awarded the digital bank license, and we look forward to an even more vibrant competitive landscape in Singapore, which has been through the last few decades that banking has been very competitive. But if we took at the bank ourselves, right, we have been, I think, around for 85 years and expanded to Southeast Asia. What we believe in is that, like what Reuben says, is to serve the community and to serve a segment of the community and the needs of the various sectors of customers that we have. And the question is, in whether it is a fintech player or a payment platform player or an ecosystem partner, we want to work with like-minded partners, right? Who's there to build trust, to build things of value, and who's not value destroying. Because we all need to come together to be stronger in order for us to continue to invest to serve our customers, right? So, like prior, obviously, to the Digi license that Grab has, we are already partnering, and we build their wallet with our bank account, and we make the top-up as seamless as possible within already existing payment rails. So in Singapore, there's not short of payment methods. The question is, how do we make the experience good? And how do we make sure that we carved out value, I think, so that is a positive experience for everybody.
I have to give a shout out to the UOB Grab top-up experience. Like literally it takes 1 second to top up from a UOB account to the Grab Pay wallet, which is just extremely slick and beautiful experience. And thanks to Susan and the team for doing this integration. And as Susan mentioned, we just use existing banking rails, and which is secure, which is safe, which is fast. This is something that we hope to leverage the FAST platform to do more. And we're very thankful that in Singapore we've got this to leverage. In the other countries where the systems are still being developed, we actually had to spend effort to do host-to-host bank integrations in order to speed up this experience and also to bring down the cost of transactions. We see this development of the fast network as really pivotal in the whole landscape for Singapore. More capabilities, I believe, are being considered and will be built up over the next 12 months. We're all waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, and you're sitting in a special position where you are both a fintech firm, fintech payments firm, as well as incoming digibank. So how does this competition and collaboration and disruptor, suddenly the disruptor may become the disrupted. So what do you say to people like Jeremy? What's your game plan for that, or how has this changed things for you?
What do we, for me?
Yeah, for you.
I'm going to see how this conversation ages in 5 years.
Jeremy has something to say, but we thought we'd hear from Reuben first. And it's just nice that you're sitting in between Susan and Jeremy. Not that we planned it this way, but it has. So Reuben, back to you.
I thought we were sandwiched between two beautiful women.
One quite brutal.
To make Jeremy and myself look better, but I guess that was a plot. And to be perfectly candid, we never, the term competition never really crossed our minds, because honestly, we were very focused on serving the folks in our ecosystem. So over the course of the last 8 years, we literally opened more than 1 million bank accounts across the region. And we asked ourselves, why is that the case? Why on earth were these micro merchants not able to open a bank account, or why didn't they need to? And as we started opening up bank accounts, we also saw a flurry of new financial services being made available to them. And we honestly see a huge need, a gap there that we can help plug together with our partner banks, and as well as our various fintech partners on our platform. We have more than 60 partnerships across banks and fintechs across the region. So the way our view of the world is that as we unlock these new opportunities, the market is so big that what we want to do is just work together with all our partners and to serve our customers better. Our focus is really on our customers, and very, very rarely do we sort of consider the term competition, because the market is just so big.
Jeremy, your response to that?
Actually, I agree on that one. So, there's this competition that we talk about. Actually, sometimes if you take a step back and you look at it, how much are we really competing? Are we competing with the bank, or are we competing with the tech department of the bank? Are we competing with the core business of the bank, or are we competing with something that the banks have to do because they had to do it anyway because it's a cost of business? So whether the fintech is in regulating RegTech, whether they're in payments, at some point in time, there are certain parts of the things that the banks got used to doing that if you look back into it, do they really need to be doing that? So that's one thing that we see that again, obviously, every bank has a different strategy to that. So the idea that there will be some competition, there'll be some overlap, but more likely cooperating, because like Susan says, right, this is an ecosystem. There are things that we are all on a hook on, right? We want to make sure that it's a stable system, there's no structural risk in it, any rules, whether it's from AML, whether it's from compliance, everybody's in this together. So in that sense, we should collaborate a lot more, and collaboration while competing in obviously, the obvious things. Singapore's a pretty small market, but it's also a very diverse and nuanced market in that sense. And Reuben gave a good example about the region, but if you look at it from a Singapore perspective, I think the banks have said this, how many unbanked do we have here? So in a sense, that is quite true. But at the same time, it goes more than that, having a banking, financial services, and I won't be mentioning what the digital banks are doing, but in a sense, you can imagine that how many people love their bank, right? I mean, if you set that bar that high, right? That's something that might change when you have more and more players, right? Especially when players who are driven by technology, and there's one thing that Reuben said that caught me as well, is exactly, right? With Fast, with Pay Now, the commonalities, the infrastructure, you get that out of the way. And that's where it gets interesting for people like us, where innovation and where we are actually really learning from one another. So the banks compete on credit cards, they run all kinds of funny programs. It's competition, but it's still the same ecosystem. So now we up the game a little bit. It's payments for me, and then it's obviously a bit of banking services for Reuben and Grab. But in that sense, that competition, where everybody's gotten all the structural things out of the way, I think that's where it's you collaborate and you know, there's so much more that I think that can come by working together on this one.
So we're on the Green-Shoots channel, and it promises to deliver some of a deep dive content. And on that deeper dive content on technology, Jeremy, wanted your views on 5G networks and how this changes things for everybody.
Wow. Okay, so 5G. Okay, what I would say is this. Okay, payment has fundamentally changed. So fast, and this is a good forum to just mention this one thing. The core of our payment infrastructure, as like Susan says, there's a lot of layers involved, right? So fast is a domestic one. That infrastructure has fundamentally changed, and around the world, all these building blocks have changed, right? But what does change mean? I mean, in the sense, what do you mean? What do we, old rails that we have, the new rails that we have? It boils down to one thing, right? Technology and data and the amount of things that we can move on our infrastructure. So this is a bit leading to 5G, so I'm going a long-winded way of getting there. QR. People look at QR as a little printed, picture. A piece of paper. It effectively is. But it's actually, it's a really, really smart thing. It's not QR technology, it's optical technology. It's a camera you're talking about. It's the camera versus the near-field communications. But what does the camera do? It hoovers up data. You can take a camera of a QR, a picture of a QR, sorry. You can use your camera. That kind of information that you can capture optically is huge. And this means, combined with digital payments, combined with optical payments, combined with 5G, and all the kind of information that you can get on the ambient data, real data, all these things can be used to strengthen the understanding, the ability to process, the ability to do multiple transactions on a single payment transaction. And then now we go back to fast. These new networks are built for it, like Reuben has alluded to it. We're very excited the next generation and iterations that will be on fast and pay now. We'll be able to send a lot more messaging, a lot more data across. This is a big thing, but obviously it starts off in different markets. Everybody will experiment. Everybody knows from a technology standpoint, we are 10 years behind. Right? This technology, digitalization has happened, and it's wrecked music, it's wrecked books, it's wrecked retail stores. But now, at the core of payment and financial services, we've got that platform. Now, what we do with it, with 5G, which is basically essentially a comms, data, well, it's comms too, right? It's just a means to an end. But there's so much more that now that the infrastructure is so big. So it's going to be a lot of things. I'm not going to be we're going to say what we are going to do specifically, because in a lot of ways we're experimenting as we go with our fellow partners here, and it will be very, very interesting. It's really exciting. Yeah.
Any views on that, Susan?
I think, like what Jeremy said, the amount of data, the massive amount of data that now can be transported at speed, and you can reimagine payments, right? And customer service at the same time. Right now, we talk about speed as the one barrier. But if you think today, I was reading somewhere during the height of the COVID, I think not just in Singapore, but in elsewhere, you have scams, that comes in. And we need to build trust amongst, and protect our consumers and all that. So you can reimagine the triangulation of data for fraud detection, payments, so that we can make payments safer, faster, but ultimately a good experience, right? For the consumer, to protect, preempt, and so on. So I think we're just at that tip of the iceberg. What we can use 5G and whatever other instrumentation that may come out of it, and how do we use that effectively will be interesting to watch.
We know that the super apps are king of data. So I have to come back to Reuben on this 5G. Your thoughts?
I'm not sure about the kings of data, but we're thankful to be at the confluence of a lot of consumer insights and merchant insights. That our aim is really to build products that really are very relevant to the needs. Look, I don't claim to be an expert in 5G at all. I was literally thinking that perhaps Arthur, our partner at Singtel, will be much better pleased to talk about this.
But in terms of data?
But I think what's interesting though is that anything that strengthens the infrastructure is good. That makes it faster, that makes it more secure. And I think 5G is probably one of the building blocks on that sits alongside a few other core infrastructure pieces that would dramatically transform how we deal with financial services. Things like blockchain, huge processing power required, speed is of essence. We are seeing green shoots of crypto, and as well as those are stable coins that are issued by governments.
Yeah.
And if we sort of take that thought and extend it forward, I think that if more and more of these financial services it gets incorporated into each of these enabling technologies, I think that it opens up a whole host of more and more use cases. For us, I'll use the example of fractionalizing transactions. And back to the example of insurance, the reason why we were able to sell so many policies in such a short amount of time was really because each one of these policies cost like 50 cents, $1, 30 cents. They're just they're priced very, very low. And the way that we were able to do that is just fractionalizing. What do things like blockchain allow us to do? Fractionalize, store it in a secure cloud, make it more accessible to multiple parties, and authentication, all of that. And we need enabling technologies like 5G to do so in a quicker way and in a more secure way. So I think things like that would dramatically change. Sitting where we are right now and trying to imagine it is hard. I think there'll be things that are coming out in 2-3 years that we'll be like, oh wow, I wish we thought about that.
And I like that. That's a nice segue into the closing topic, which is a bit of an unfair question, given that crystal ball gazing is very difficult now. I mean, as we did the Singapore FinTech Festival last year, no one here would have thought that this would be the platform, and for this year's Singapore FinTech Festival, that we thought that we'll also be booking out all 6 halls of Expo, but here we are with a reimagined and reformatted version of the Singapore FinTech Festival. So Susan, unfair question to you, but where do you see the payments ecosystem in the next, say, 2 or 3 years? I won't say 5 years. 5 years is really unfair, but 2 or 3 years.
Well, I think if we all know where that is going to go,
maybe we should start a company.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. But if there's one thing for sure, I don't think we will stay still. I think it will continue to evolve, right? So, like for instance, we are talking about linking fast with PromptPay.
Yes.
In Thailand.
Yes.
Ourselves within UOB, we are saying, how can we work with like-minded partners, but we want to create value for our own customers so that we can serve them regionally, especially when they are, we want to help our businesses grow as well, right? From being a small business when they want to export services to the other countries and all that. There's a role bank plays, not only just payments, but the underlying credit underneath it to facilitate economic growth, right? So I would say payments will continue to evolve and it will be interesting for a while. And I think Singapore now with the interoperability that's just been announced, I think there will be more innovative services that will be created out of it. The question is, how do we do it in a manner that can showcase, we can build it safely, and the system as a whole for the island is still, our consumers are still protected, right? And like when I guess all of us are part of the National Payment Council, and what we want to make sure is that it's not value destroying, right? So it will be, I think, interesting days ahead.
That's true. Jeremy?
Okay, so again, crystal ball gazing is not a good sport that we should be doing, but I do run my own company, so obviously I'm making bets on the future.
Yes.
I seriously think QR. So this is one of those things, a lot of people see it as a 10-year-old technology. It's been around for many, many years. I get that, right? But actually seeing what the Chinese did with it, they didn't use the QR. The QR is just a picture. Everything was built behind it.
Yep.
A simple picture pulls along an entire engine behind. So I'm just putting it out there. Where do I think it'll go? Things will go digital. It's an unfair fight even. A card versus a mobile phone. A card's 16 kilobytes, ENV. Wow, that was 10 years ago. We're talking about that. Yeah, we're still there. The phone is in the gigabytes in the processing. So, and with the new networks around, this is the kind of things that we can do. So the two big technology changes, I think, the cut's over. We are talking about phones now, right? The phone has wrecked practically everything. It will wreck the card, the physical card. Not in terms of card payments, but the physical card itself. It's all going to go mobile. And in terms of how people would pay, I would put it out there. It's going to be optical payments. Near-field communications will be there. But the world of optical payments is there. I mean, you've seen videos, live stream, people replacing 1-800 numbers to QRs, people scanning in the distance, paying things, toggling services. That's the new thing. And that will link into 5G. So that whole entire thing, casting, so not 5 years, I think 2-3 years, everybody just has to go and look at what the Chinese did in China. And this is there. It is at the water's edge. It's flooding across. And everything, I feel, will be on mobile, and QR will be one of the key components of enabling it.
Why not facial payments?
Yeah, that too. As an authentication, facial payment will work. Today we have thumbprints, we have pins, facial rec. That will be there.
Yeah, because we've seen, like Susan was saying, a huge amount of frauds during during COVID, and because everybody's rushing online to do online transactions, and the fraudsters took advantage of that. And it's heartbreaking to see innocent consumers being cheated of their money. And I think a big application to these new technologies is really authentication and just really protecting our consumers.
Yeah, and staying with you, Reuben, any quick concluding thoughts about this topic of interoperable payments before we go?
Yeah, I go to work super excited every single day because I think that we are just in a very lucky time where there's just convergence of so many things happening: technology, huge platforms, availability of data, and availability of people willing to invest into these new technologies. And I believe that we have once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to completely transform Southeast Asia and to be able to really increase economic mobility for millions and millions of people. And for us, it's really about partnerships. And that's why we're consistently and constantly talking about how do you just partner together as one ecosystem to serve the people and in order to just lift up and improve livelihoods for everyone.
Susan?
I think, like Reuben said, I think we have, the cups, of a big change that will come, because for once we have a lot of components now available, right? We have in Singapore we have the MyInfo, the creation of this national ID. We have the payment rails, as we have put through for instant payments, and now getting interoperability. I don't think it's interoperability, it's getting the ease of money from banks and non-banks alike in order to create value in services, right? And if you can think about the different moving parts coming together, I think Singapore will be a very interesting experiment. But within Southeast Asia, every country is trying to solve their own domestic challenges with technology as well. And they are also evolving in a different way: payment rails, national identity, telecommunications, different needs of the society in there, and so on. And because we also operate in Southeast Asia, and a lot of it is how do we work with partners alike as well, to make sure we fill in gaps as we provide services. And like Reuben said, it's really interesting how then we can go and serve and start building the future platform for a mobile first and a mobile only generation to come.
And Jeremy, you have the last word on this.
Well, I'm a strong, supporter of interoperability, of keeping things open. So, in a lot of ways, we have this once-in-a-generation opportunity where payment rails are being upgraded. So there are the old rails, and now all the new ones are coming in. And keeping it open is critical. So we're really, really pleased, or really, really, pleased is a bad word, is really, really happy with MAS' approach on keeping it open. Because this is the core. I mean, as regulators, they balance their view in terms of the structural risks they introduce in the system. But yet at the same time, there is innovation to be had. There's innovation to be achieved and to allow and keeping the systems open. So yes, we have a super app on my left. But I believe in keeping systems super open. Super app is a closed system. But as super apps evolved into different national systems, they open up too. So the more, of course, national have their own platforms. Cross-border, they have their own platforms. But the key that we want to take away in infrastructure level discussions is we have to keep things open. There's always the push against the tendency to, this is existing, it's worked pretty fine, there's no structural risk, let's leave it there, we've got other problems to solve. No, this will solve certain problems. We open it carefully, cautiously, and bring in new players onto it, and then we let the innovation flourish, obviously with a great oversight of the regulators. But the key is no closed loops, no cross-border closed loops, because that's too structurally risky. But with open loops nationally, and when they all collaborate, I think it provides a very stable ecosystem. It provides a space for fintechs to innovate. And it provides a space for even banks to leverage on as well, because as the system is open, the banks will find within themselves, and the banks are a lot more competitive, they are a lot more innovative than they give themselves credit for sometimes. Because they're big companies, and there is bureaucracy, as with every organization of a certain size. And as things move, especially if innovation comes from smaller companies, the banks will look at it and say, like, hey, we can do that easily. And so at the same time, that also creates a very, very healthy environment where we maintain stability and we move forward with the new things technology can bring. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jeremy, and thanks, Susan, and thanks, Reuben, for the excellent conversation today.
Thank
and
you.
to everyone tuning in, thanks so much for your company. Do stay on here on Green-Shoots Channel for more deep dive content. Until next time we meet, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.